Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm super excited. You guys are in for a treat today. I am with Leanne Venier and
Venier.
Leanne Venier. And we are here. We're going to talk about a lot of things that are going to be really important for you guys. But I first wanted just to say a little bit about Leanne. She is an award-winning artist. She is a world-class color expert. She advises companies, works with medical centers and healing and integration of color into promoting optimal health. And just super excited that I'm with her in her living room actually here, and we're going to talk about several things today that I think you'll really enjoy. So Lenny, thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. This is my first time using Facebook Live, so it's a new endeavor for me. I do lots of podcasts and summit interviews, but this is my first Facebook Live broadcast. So.
Guys, this woman is in demand. She's all in the lecture circuit and talking and doing a lot of live events and a lot of big events. So we're really excited to have her here, and it's really a treat. So first, just wanted to start. One of the first themes would be like just looking at your background, just fascinating. Like you went from left brain engineering to total right brain creativity, like that. Say a little bit about that, how you made that transition.
A little about that. Okay, let's see. How can I give you the right Reader's Digest condensed?
Well, a lot about it. That's fine. Whatever you want.
It's like that could take the entire show time. Okay, so I started off as an engineer. My degree's in engineering, my first degree, and I was always very creative as a child, always outdoors, drawing, writing, things like that. I was trained as a classical pianist, so I was always very creative. But when I had to make a decision about what to do for university in my career, I went the left brain route because I was kind of conditioned to think you can't make money as an artist, you can't do something creative, and make a profitable living doing that. So I ended up, listening to that, and I ended up going into mechanical engineering, and I ended up working for Lockheed designing submarines. And so I love math and science, but I did not love the corporate realm, and I did not love working with a lot of very left brain engineers that could only see black or white, because I've always been very visionary. I see big picture and I connect dots, and I can come in and see when something, it's like, why are you doing it that way? Like it would be really better if you did it this way and be really easy. And that kind of environment is not conducive to you don't do things differently. This is how we do it. So I did not thrive in the corporate realm at all. And I actually was getting sick a lot because of being in that kind of stifling environment for me. So I ended up leaving that career completely, and I moved to Italy for 7 years. And I had already been interested in alternative healing modalities, natural healing, and that's kind of been the constant throughout my life. I mean, even as a child, I wouldn't take aspirin. I come from a family of pill poppers, and they were always just taking pills for every little thing. And I always felt like, no, if I give my body what it needs to come back into balance, then I will heal naturally. So that kind of has been a constant throughout my life, and the creativity and the left brain and right brain balance. But anyway, so I left engineering, I moved to Italy and studied all kinds of alternative healing modalities for 7 years. And a lot of that tied in with color and light. So, and prior to even moving to Italy, I was very interested in that and had already been learning about the effects on the brain, the effects on the psyche, the physiological effects of color and light. So then I came back from Italy, and I went back to school for acupuncture and Zen Shiatsu, became a healing practitioner, and I worked with cancer patients. And then after doing that for some time, I felt like it was not a very effective way of delivering this information to the world, because I'd studied so many things besides just acupuncture and shiatsu. I mean, I'd spent all of these years prior to that, plus, many years even before moving to Italy, studying all of these alternative healing modalities that integrate physical health with mental health, emotional health, and spiritual health. So I decided to just kind of take a break. I took a beginner painting class and I started painting, and I was getting into flow state creating my paintings. And I started creating abstract paintings on my own at home while I was doing this class, and my art career took off very quickly. I mean, that's the really soundbite version, but without doing anything really. I mean, completely effortless. I had a handful of paintings, I put them on the internet, and then I started getting contacted by people to show my work, to participate in international exhibitions. So I won my first international award. Was getting contacted by media, magazines, international magazines to feature my artwork. It was just bizarre. It was very weird to me that I was getting so much attention for my artwork, and I was literally a beginner painter. So it didn't make sense to me until a few years later that because I was getting into flow state, and when you're in flow, flow is being in that optimal state, that mental state where you're connected, you're kind of plugged in. If you think of, that painting where you've got, whatever. Tapped in, you're like
the little lightning ball.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like that. I mean, when you're in the zone, that hyper-focused state of awareness, that optimal brain performance, but it's much more than that because you feel like you're in bliss and you're super happy and everything just flows effortlessly. So
how did you get in that state? Like, what advice would you give for somebody to be able to tap into that for themselves?
Well, what I discovered through my painting process, because I'd already been able to get into flow very effectively through playing music. Like I said, I trained as a classical pianist. So, and being in nature prior to that, anytime I would be out in nature. And I just had this ability that I'd kind of cultivated throughout my lifetime to be able to get there. And it was because of the fact that I'd been doing so much studying and work and not having that time in my life to get into flow that I felt like I need to take a painting class to be able to that's what I was craving. It wasn't like I was craving creating art, it was craving getting into flow state. Because we actually do crave that. It's like a state in your brain where it's like you're tapping into that right brain intuitive, where you are connected. I mean, and you're not only connected for bringing in data and insights and that sort of thing. That's where all like great technological breakthroughs come from, when there are great inventions or great works of art or great literary works. So when people are in flow, or great film ideas, or producing things when you're in flow, that you get these insights about exactly what you need to do, intuitions, whatever you want to call them, and then you can manifest them very easily if you're able to stay in flow. So what I found with my painting process was that color became a catalyst for me getting into flow. If I was using the colors that I was drawn to on any given day, because your color cravings will change, I could tap into flow state very quickly. And then I found through, the more I did that, the easier it became to get into flow very quickly. And I could also get pulled out of it. Whereas at first, when I first started painting, if somebody came to my studio and knocked on my door while I was in flow, it would be like, oh God, it's like it pulls you out and then it takes so long to get back in. But within the first few months, I found that that didn't bother me anymore. Somebody could come, I could have even a 20 or 30 minute conversation with them and then get immediately back into flow. Because of neuroplasticity, you can actually train your brain to be able to do that. So I was using color and music as a catalyst for getting into flow. And that's what I now teach people how to do in my creative flow training program whenever I have time to teach that, which I haven't had lately.
All that free time that you've got. Yeah.
Anyway, so so that's kind of how I ended up teaching about color and light, because as soon as I started showing my paintings, people would remark, it's like, oh my God, I can't stop staring at your red paintings or your blue paintings or your teal paintings or whatever color it was that they were really drawn to. And they would describe it in this way, like, it's like I'm like eye candy, I can't get enough of it. They literally were fixated on these colors and compositions. And I would say, well, if you're really drawn to that color, it might mean you've got this going on in your body or this going on in your life. And they would say, oh my God, that's exactly what's going on in my body and my life. How do you know that? And I'm like, well, you just told me, because you told me your color cravings. And because I had come up with this big picture model for knowing what colors correlated with, imbalances in the body, emotional imbalances, and had gotten very good at being able to fine tune, like, okay, you're craving this color. Do you have this going on or this going on? That sort of thing. And it was just like hit the nail on the head over and over again. So people then are like, I want to know more about this. Where's the book? And I'm like, it's in my head.
Encyclopedia, it's still up here.
It's easy for me just to tell you, but and they're like, well, write the book. When are you going to write the book? I'm like, oh my God, do you know how much work that is to take all this stuff that's in your head?
It's a decent amount of
like,
work.
yeah, now you know. And they're like, okay, well, can you just like put some on your website? Because I just want to be able to go back and read more about what you just told me. And I'm like, oh my God, do you know how much work this is? So 3 years of people pestering me, it took that long. And I'm like, okay, finally, I'll do this. And because I'd already been interviewing about it, and then I'd already kind of like compartmentalized it in a way that I could explain it in a, more concise way that was universal to everybody instead of just me, working directly with you. And anyway, so I put some on my website, and then I just started getting contacted for interviews. Again, it was like the same thing when as soon as I put my artwork out there, I started getting contacted. I mean, literally within 2 months of putting my artwork on a brand new website, I got contacted by an international curator in Italy to participate in an international exhibition in Ferrara, Italy. And I was like, how did you even find me? Like, I'm in this sea of millions of websites. That's one of the things when you're in flow, synchronicity. You attract these things to you. You're putting out that energy, and then you attract it back to yourself. So when I put up the information about the healing effects of color and light on my website, people were finding this page on my website. I'm like, how are they even finding this? Again, in the sea of gazillions of websites, and I wasn't doing any SEO or anything like that, right. And I'm still not. But anyway, so I was getting contacted by journalists to interview about it. Within 2 months of putting that up, I got contacted by the UT Health Sciences Center in San Antonio to come and do an exhibition and a learning component with that about the healing effects of color and light. And then they also asked me to give a presentation, a lecture for their medical doctors and medical students. And I was like, I've never given a talk before. So anyway, that was my first presentation. I'm like, oh, I have to learn PowerPoint.
Down the rabbit hole. Here Leanne goes.
Anyway, so that was where it all started. And then immediately after that exhibition ended, I got contacted by UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas to come and have an exhibition up there with this learning component. And I was able to really expand, the science of color and light portion. And I was validating all of my teachings with hard science and connecting it with medical research. So that, and then I gave another presentation up there. Then I got contacted by Mensa to give a talk for that conference and South by Southwest Interactive, and it's just kind of grown from there. So I do a lot of conferences. I get hired to come and speak at brain and neuroscience conferences, research organizations, things like that, to share my research, because there's a big interest in the Western medical community now, because I've validated this healing modality with hard science and connected biophysics, biophotonics, quantum physics, medical research, electromagnetic spectrum, and how it all works in a logical way because of the fact that we evolved to live and thrive under sunlight. So I connect it all together. I make it really easy for everybody to understand. It's like taking complex science, but just making it really easy for anybody. You don't have to have any science background, and connecting it with real world examples. So that's what I do now.
It's really a bridge. And,
yeah.
And I see your background too in engineering, probably really helped with that, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. That to be able to understand not only the science and the physics, but also my healing and medical training to understand how all of this works in the body, and from an Eastern medicine perspective, which is based in energy as opposed to chemistry and just physical body. Western medicine, diagnosing chemical imbalances and things like that. This is actually going to the quantum level where you can understand why the body is getting sick from the energetic imbalance that starts it all, which is at a quantum physics level. So
with your experience, you were like the perfect person to deliver this message. with your background.
Yeah, kind of. It's weird because when people, when I was going through these various iterations, they're like, okay, now you're leaving engineering. Now what are you doing? Now you're moving to Italy. Now what are you doing? Now you're coming back to the United States. Now you're becoming an acupuncturist. What are you, Leanne? What are you doing? It's like I'm following my intuition. This is what my gut is telling me I need to do. So that's a really important thing. If you want to be in alignment with what your path and purpose is, it's like you always always know what you're supposed to be doing, but so often people allow that to be obscured by left brain logic and what society says. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to, get a good job in a company and stay there for X number of years, and climb up the corporate ladder, and and buy a house and have these many cars and this many children and all of that we have these expectations that are placed upon us, and it often, if we choose to listen to that, it limits our ability to flourish in life.
What would be a recommendation that you would have for someone to, take the plunge to, and is it, and I'm hearing too from you, it was kind of it wasn't just something you just quit your job, in one day and just started doing art, right? You took your the beginning classes, you just dabbled, you tried it, you were in there. I mean, granted, you had done some creative stuff before, but I mean, is that maybe kind of how you recommend the transition happens? Is start to get, just lean into your intuition a little bit at a time? And
the reason that I took a beginner painting class wasn't so somebody could teach me how to paint. That was part of it, just because, you can go on YouTube now and learn all these things, and I could have figured it out through trial and error too, and that would have been, all of my painting techniques that I developed were just from being in flow, and from that wasn't any teacher teaching me these painting techniques. It was just, what I did learn in the class was how to mix paint and how to skip that mud forming phase. But I studied color theory on my own because they weren't teaching that. So I wanted to understand how colors work with each other and how they complement each other. So I just studied that from books and from practice. But the class, and I knew this about myself because I knew it would give me the discipline to have to go to class twice a week and paint twice a week. And if you want to create a new habit, sometimes that's the biggest obstacle, is it's like, I want to paint, but I'm not making the time to paint, or I want to create, but I'm not making the time in my life to do it, because all these other things seem so much more important. People were like, I have to go to the dentist, I have to get my car work done, I have to do all these other things, which really are not very pleasant. But people prioritize those because it's like, I have to do these things. So the things that actually nourish us and allow us to do all of those other things more effectively and also stay healthy get pushed to the back burner because they're classified in society often as, well, those aren't really that important. You need to go to work. You need to, push through. You're not feeling well? Get up and go to work anyway. Don't worry about taking vacations, all of that thing, all the things that have to do with recharging, our life force energy, get pushed to the back burner. And, it's very different in, countries like in Europe. In Italy, it was obviously very different. People there, they take at least a month of vacation every year, at least. You take the whole month of August off, and it's like companies close down. So, it's like you were doing business with a company in Italy. It's like, forget about getting anything done in August, because most of them, and they still do that. So knowing about that, understanding the importance of balance is really fundamental. So if people want to be able to, be more effective in whatever it is they're doing, it's like you have to schedule in downtime, creative time, whatever it is for you that nourishes you. Because being constantly in that left brain logical, list, and like going, that is very depleting. You need to have that creative, and creativity does not necessarily just mean painting or drawing or writing or any of those things. You can be creative in whatever you're doing in your work. Like I don't even have much time to paint anymore. I get into flow through my work and my research and my teachings, and I'm getting into flow constantly. So when you're getting into flow, it's self-fulfilling. It's kind of like keeping your batteries charged up all the time. And people are always like, how do you have so much energy? Like, I just go. And I have to have a hard shut-off time, because I can work very late. Like I can go, and I've made a rule for myself that at 10 o'clock, if I'm working on something even that's time sensitive, it's like I have to shut off all electronics at 10 o'clock. And get off, from work phase, because then I will watch streaming video after that with a blue light blocker. But that's just kind of like wind down time. But as far as anything work related, get off email, get off anything that feels anything like work. And then I also make sure I take weekends off for the most part. So, and I've done that since I've been working for myself. You know, when I was in Italy, I started a language school, which wasn't, and was another one of those things.
Started a language school. Why not?
Well,
we're in Italy. You know, when in Italy, you just
I started a language school. Yeah, working with professionals, and it was one of those things where it was like some PhD students they were going to the University of Florence, getting their PhDs in architecture, and they talked me into teaching them English. I'm like, I don't know how to teach English. I know how to write English very well. I've always been a very good writer. I understand the grammar, but I don't remember the rules. I can't teach you English. And they're like, yes, you can, come on. So I have this recurring theme in my life where people they pester me enough, and then I'm like, okay, fine. So I'll get like a good grammar book, and I'll relearn the rules so I can teach them to you. But then that ended up turning into a full-blown business, which was perfect for me because in my spare time, studying all these alternatives. It's like when you're in flow,
right.
You just you have all this energy. So, I had this incredible life of balance because I would, get together with all my friends there were Italian. So we'd get together and, spontaneously get together for dinner or go out to movies or things in the middle of the week, which people here often don't do because everything kind of gets crammed into the weekend. So doing all that. But then when I was at home, I'd have my work hours, and then I'd have my study hours where I would just be fully immersed in studying all of these alternative healing modalities, going from herbology into other plant forms of healing, and then up into subtle energy, pranotherapy, everything like that, going up into, now we're getting into subtle energy. This is quantum physics. So and I just had all of these students that were very interested in learning about these things. So then they became my student sort of patients at the same time because they wanted. So it was like an all-in-one curriculum.
Well, it's a really good example on the court of by trusting your intuition and checking in and just staying open and letting kind of the universe guide you that things are just going to start really happening on a level that maybe on a conscious level before that you wouldn't be able to even conceptualize, right? But it seems like for you, it's just because you were willing to do that and be in that space that it could just kind of opened up for you, right, as you went along. Yeah,
and it's a lot of trusting your intuition or your gut, and when you feel like this is not the right path for me, which I was getting very clear messages from, my body was telling me, don't be working in this corporate job, because I literally was getting sick all the time, and I'd always been very healthy, and I was miserable, I was stressed out, it was just really awful. So, and I went to Europe, had a trip around Europe, and then as I was getting back on the plane, and knowing that, okay, I've got to go back to this engineering career, and I got deathly ill on the plane, like psychosomatic illness, as soon as I stepped on the plane. And then I was in bed for 10 days, nonstop, where I just was so sick, I could not get out of bed. And I finally, in that, my delirium, I'm like, okay, I really, really, really want to move to Italy, so I'm going to move to Italy, because that's what my intuition was telling me. As soon as I made that decision, and this is the thing, it's you need to make a decision. That's the hardest step. I made the decision, went back to sleep, fell asleep, because I'm still feverish, and woke up the next day, and I was all better. So, and I booked a flight that day for 5 weeks later. I thought 5 weeks was a lot of time. Oh yeah, that'll be enough time to sell all of my stuff and get my 2 cats ready with all of the exams they need and the paperwork and all that stuff for, make sure they're okay to bring. Anyway, it was it was a lot of work in 5 weeks. I don't recommend doing it that quickly, but it was worked out. Everything fell into place, and there were some bumps along the way, but I just kind of trusted it's all going to work out. Don't get stressed out along the way, because I just knew that I was doing the right thing. So.
What advice would you give somebody that's maybe in that position now? There's a lot of people that maybe are in a job that they just really don't like, and they're maybe doing it out of either expectation or whether family, commitments or expectations by, parents or things like this. They're staying in something that really is causing an illness, causing them to be fatigued, causing them whatever. Knowing there's something else for them inside, feeling that, what advice would you give to kind of make that shift?
Well, I think I think the biggest obstacle for people is that they think I'm not going to be able to make money if I'm doing what I really feel passionate about.
That's been huge for me.
Being able to take care of yourself and your family financially is very important. It's very high up in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You need to have that. That's the foundation, not high up. It's like the foundation. You need to have money, finances, home security, that sort of thing taken care of. It's all about survival. That's root chakra, red. That whole primal energy thing. You need to know that you're going to survive. Where am I going to buy my groceries if I don't have money? So all of that, but people think I have to have this miserable job and be exhausted and depleted from it because I need the paycheck, and they don't realize that they could make just as much money and usually a lot more money doing what they're really passionate about, because when you're passionate about something, it doesn't feel like work, first of all. So you can put more of your energy into that, but you get into flow that way too. So you're not depleting your own reserves. You're actually, when you're in flow, you actually have energy coming in and then energy going out. And it's not your energy. It's it's coming through you and bringing up your own energy. So you're getting all this energy from, collective unconscious, whatever you want to call it, 0 point energy, that's coming through you. And then you are putting that out into the world and you're creating this abundance by being in flow, and that's where then you're putting out this energy into the world, and all these opportunities find you and fall in your lap, even though you're one website in the sea of gazillions of websites, and people find you and offer you these opportunities without you having to do anything other than just stay on your trajectory and be in alignment with what you're passionate about, what your path and purpose is. So that's the biggest obstacle, is up here, where people think I can't make a living doing what I love doing. So understanding, first of all, well, what do you really love doing? What do you thrive on doing? And some people will be I just thrive on laying on a beach.
Works for me.
That's you can lay on a beach and you can have a business because now with the internet, it's the world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want and be completely mobile. I know people that do this. It's you can travel all around the world and have an extremely successful business. So whatever it is, you have to figure out what do you thrive on doing. For me, the one constant in my life that goes back to when I was very little, I was always learning things and connecting dots. And then as soon as I would figure things out, I wanted to share them with people. And it struck me as kind of unusual when I was little, because friends of mine would say, I just love that about you. You're always asking questions, and then you're always helping other people. I'm well, yeah, isn't everybody like that?
Yeah, totally. This is how it's done.
Oh, I thought I lost my microphone. So, and obviously then later it became apparent that no, not everybody does do that, or if they feel drawn to doing that sort of thing, they don't follow that instinct. So I try to foster that kind of pay it forward mentality even with my business now, because I have my own light therapy product line and things like affiliate programs. I personally don't engage in affiliate programs because of the fact that what I've seen happening more and more is that people end up promoting products just because they're getting a kickback for it, as opposed to I'm going to curate the best products for my followers and promote those. So things like that. And I just like to encourage people to understand that when you're going out of your way to help other people, it always comes back to you. And it may not come back to you from that person that you just helped, but that's not the motivation for doing it, because you're in flow, you're putting out that energy, helping others, putting, whatever it is that you're doing to create something valuable in the world for whoever it's for. And you put that out into the world, and that flow is here, you need something here, and you get carried along on this, wave, because you're riding the wave as opposed to struggling against it, and people, it's a, attachment as well. When people get attached to a certain thing, it's no, I have to have this thing or this paycheck or that relationship or whatever it is that they get so caught up in. And their, higher power, or whatever you want to call it, the universe is saying, no, that's not really the best thing for you. So I'm going to put these obstacles in your path so you don't get that very easily. And they're like, I just have to have that thing. I just know I like.
Then the universe will
like,
start rattling
no,
the scene more.
No, it's like here, and there's like a door right in front of you. And there's like bang your head on the door or the wall and the brick wall. And it's like, I've got to have this thing. It's like, guess what? You don't have to have that thing because there's a giant wall here. But look, if you like take 2 steps to the right and you walk around, there's this whole other path there for you that's free and open. And all you have to do is take a couple steps over and redirect and be able to, be open to those possibilities. Because when people are so focused on, it's like, all I can see is that wall and I have to get through that wall, like a hammer on the wall. It's like, no, you don't have to hammer on that wall because there's a much easier way. And it just takes going over 2 steps over and then free, clear path. So a lot of times people resist that because they do have, psychological attachment to certain things because they've listened to the programming or they've listened to their own belief system that was so heavily ingrained in them. Like me as a child, it's like you have to go to university, you have to get this job and work in the corporate and stay this number of years. And I really, for me, I went into engineering because I love math and science. But because, another major motivation was because there were almost no women in engineering back then, and it's a lot more women in engineering, math, and science now. But back then it was like almost none, and so I wanted to do something that was atypical for a female as well, because it's like this whole thing about men are able to do these things and women can only do these things, which was part of what I grew up in, growing up in a small town. It's like, here, you're gonna, go to high school and then get married and have children. I'm like,
not
no.
so much.
No, no, thank you.
Thanks. I'm not gonna fall into that paradigm.
Not in
There's
this
nothing wrong with that,
lifetime.
but
Yeah.
that's not what I really
Right.
want to do right now.
Yeah, so it's like, and I could have listened to that programming and then been miserable my whole life. Not to say that that's a bad thing, because some people choose that and they're perfectly happy doing that. But for me, I knew, as a very small child, that wasn't my path, and purpose in this lifetime. So anyway, I did kind of follow that programming. I did the engineering thing, but really I'm like, okay, I love math and science, but I want to be an astronaut, because that for me is like, and I'll become an engineer. But I actually chose to be an engineer, but I wanted to be an astronaut. And then I let my father talk me into studying something more general. It's like, no, you should be a mechanical engineer, because you can work on lots of different things that way. You can't, it's not just being an astronaut. Right. And so it's kind of like, well, that wasn't really why I wanted to be an engineer, but okay, well, so, you go down, you kind of, it's like the frog in the boiling water. You kind of get talked into things along the way. But I did have that epiphany, while I was working as an engineer, that I had choices, because I had believed for a very long time, that, my choice to become an engineer was because I kind of become a mechanical engineer and then work in the corporate realm was because I had these expectations from my family and society and things like that. And I'm like, I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. I kept saying I don't have a choice. But then I had this epiphany one day that I do have a choice. And as soon as I realized I had a choice in all of those things, I was the only one that was making those decisions along the way, where it's like we do have this tendency, well, that person made me do this, or I had to do it because of that. It's like you always have a choice. And when you realize that you have a choice in everything that you do in your life, no matter what, you take back responsibility and you own your life again, instead of feeling like you're a victim or like you're being pushed along in that wave instead of riding the wave, and like you're on a surfboard,
choosing which wave you want to ride.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's such a powerful thing, because I think a lot of times we react to things outside, and it really occurs like, no, really, that actually happened to me. Where we don't really sometimes think about our role in creating that, and bringing that out, and then also the reaction. Stuff might happen, but how we choose to react to it really ends up dictating how we're showing up in the world, what's happening further, like all that.
Exactly. And that's one of the things one of the things that will side rail people is allowing themselves to get caught up in, negative energy or pettiness or things like that. And it's all about, or somebody, they did this to me. That person did this to me. And now I have to waste all this energy, my personal energy, being angry and being, kind of pissed off about that thing that person did to me, or this circumstance did to me. And people waste so much of their energy on that, and you feel depleted, and it stresses you out, and it's this thing that's going underneath the surface, and it's just sucking your life force energy. You're not getting into flow when you're feeling like that. And it not only that, it's actually causing stress in your physical body, and we know that you cannot be in a fight or flight stress state at the same time as you're healing your body. So your body just shuts down, and systems start to break down, and it all starts up here in the psychological and the energy realm before it can manifest in the physical body. And eventually you have enough of that stress, and then you start having problems in your physical body. You start catching colds, your immune function declines. You can't be in both states at the same time. So the way that you look at things, the way that you reframe them, the way that you choose to look at circumstances or situations or whatever it is that you went through, illness is another thing. It's like I working with patients and working with people, I always tell them, it's like, look at your illness as an opportunity for learning and growth. It's really a gift for you. And it's like, if you understand that you're giving this gift to yourself, it's an opportunity to come through it, but through learning and becoming a different person, and probably getting back on the path that you're really supposed to be on. Because if you were on your path and why you're here, what your purpose is here, you wouldn't be getting sick. But this is like, often people need to have that extreme physical illness that kind of wakes them up and then says, you know what? I'm doing it all wrong. I'm wasting my life. Time is limited. The clock is ticking. You think of it in those terms. And what have I done with my life so far? Why do I not feel fulfilled? Why do I feel stressed out? Why do I feel like I'm always trying to achieve more and I'm never getting there? Because I'm always trying to, it's like you're eating empty calories and food, and your body's always hungry because you're not giving it any actual nourishment. So it's the same thing at a spiritual level. When you are nourishing yourself by being on your path, your purpose, figuring out what that is, then you're nourishing your spiritual body as well. And then the financial part comes naturally because you're in flow and people are finding you and giving you opportunities and abundance. And it sounds magic, but it actually has been proven time and again that when you allow yourself to, be in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing, and you already know what that is. And a lot of people are like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, And I'm like, yes,
what would happen if you did?
Yeah, exactly.
An old question reframe. What would happen if you did?
Right. Yeah. Well, I'd probably be happy. Well, you could be happy right now. All you have to do is reframe. Look at what you're experiencing, where you are at your life at this very moment, and see it as like, okay. We learn through opposites. So like for me, I had to go through that misery and suffering working in the corporate realm to understand what it is that I don't like doing, so I could narrow down what it is that I like doing. So that was a big, like that cleared a whole bunch of options right off the table. It's like, I know I don't want to go down that path again. Right. So as soon as I did that, and I'm like, I'm very happy working for myself and being an entrepreneur and being self-sufficient and always coming up with new ways to figure out like how to manifest whatever it is I need in terms of finances or whatever. And I just make a decision about what is it that I want, what is it that I need, as far as for being able to continue doing what it is that I'm passionate about, which is helping people. And you need to have money to be able to do that. So when I started painting and got all this attention very quickly, I decided to leave the one-on-one healing work, and I decided to become a professional artist, and I made a decision. I'm going to be a very highly paid artist. I'm not doing this whole starving artist thing. It's just like, that's not my paradigm.
That's not the conversation that I want to entertain.
I'm just erasing that whole thing, and I just, anything that was in alignment with me becoming a highly paid artist, I chose those opportunities. And it wasn't a left brain decision. It was very often a right brain decision where somebody would approach me and say, do you want to show your work here? Do you want to be involved with this thing or whatever? And I would just know. It's like, well, it sounds like a really good opportunity and I should do that, but I'd know in my gut. It's like, nope. I don't know why, but I'm just going to say no to that, because when you have to learn to be able to say no and know that there's something better behind that no. Like, this is my brick wall here, and I feel like there's
Too
resistance.
much resistance. There must be.
And there will always be a resistance. It's like if it doesn't flow effortlessly, and you get that nope, then you know it's like that's not where I'm supposed to go. And being able to trust that, because our left brain, and this happens with me too. Well, not so much anymore, but before, where I'd be like, oh, it sounds like a really good thing. I should do this. As soon as you think I should do this.
Should, shouldn't, must,
can't. Right. Yeah. So that's a good indicator as well. So, being able to say no is just as important to being able to say yes, because you need to be able to filter out and, not go down the path of things that are not going to be in alignment. So, I would have all these opportunities, for example, to show my work at, these outdoor market things, or even big, ticketed event. I'm like, you would not see a very highly paid artist showing their work in a market like that. So
it impacts your brand.
Exactly.
Talk about branding as a company. Yeah.
So it's like, no, because once you go down a path, and this is the same thing with integrity. I mean, when you lose integrity, or your brand loses integrity, people don't trust you anymore. That's really hard to erase. So I chose to not do the things that I felt, a really highly paid successful artist wouldn't be showing their work there. And sure enough, it's like I don't expend my energy on those things. And here comes a real opportunity that is much more in alignment with where I want to go with this. And so, like I said, it's not just, out of desperation. It's like, oh, I have to do this because it's an opportunity. It's like, no, trust your intuition. I tell people, it's like, if you really want to start training your intuition at a really low entry point, as far as no risk kind of thing, when you're driving your car and you're trying to find a parking space, this is one of those really good things, because your logical brain would go, I know I need to go, I'm parking downtown Austin, for example. I know I always find well, now that I have a scooter, I find parking anywhere. But but even with my car before, I'm very good at finding parking spaces. Or when I'm a passenger in a car, and I tell people, it's like, okay, turn right here, then turn left, and then right then a car will be leaving. So because you can tune in with that, but so you can start feeling like, okay, I know that last time I was here, I parked on that street, but I feel like no, I should go straight, and then you get the message out, turn right, and then sure enough, there's a space opening up. So
train with the little things, parking.
Yeah, little things that aren't high risk.
Right.
And you can get more in tune with your intuition that way.
What other practices would you recommend for people to kind of tap into that flow state, the in the spiritual connection type of thing, to really be guided to pursue kind of come from their intuition and what they really are.
Well, obviously, everybody knows about meditation. Everybody knows about the benefits of meditating. I mean, that's been proven scientifically. Loads of people do it, get tons of benefit. I've done that myself. I've always been one of those type of people. It's really hard for me to sit and do nothing and sit on a cushion and just meditate. So I've been able to do it in group environments and sometimes in, solo. But I find that for some people, just that whole concept of sitting and doing nothing is really hard. But you can go and sit and do nothing in nature, and it doesn't feel like you're just sitting and doing nothing. So that was one of the aspects of creating my Creative Flow training program, which again, I did not choose to create this Creative Flow training program. People pestered me to do this.
It's the universe, man. It's like
every time it's like, okay, all right, I'll teach you my flow process. So because there are people in what often happens when people are trying to learn how to meditate, you don't get into that deep flow and wonderful feeling of bliss for a while, maybe a few months, and then you end up or you end up, you're like, I just wasted 20 minutes and now I've got even more stuff to do, and you feel more frustrated. So it's a training that not everybody is cut out for, to go through that part. That was another thing. Like I said, the Creative Flow training program, I teach people how to get into flow, and we're actually doing something that gets you into flow, and it's 100% effective, but you're not just sitting there doing nothing, and it feels good while you're doing it, because we're doing these exercises that are really enjoyable, but you not only get into flow, you get all these insights about where it is that you're blocking yourself in life, and you get these realizations during the process, and the whole thing about being in flow, and then people are like, oh my God, I can't remember the last time I felt like that, because it's like waking up that part of your brain that has just been neglected for so long. So it's like having a drink of water after you've been like crawling in the desert for so long. Water.
It's not a mirage. It's actually...
Anyway, I like mixing my metaphors.
Yes,
if you haven't noticed.
it's good. It's good. Metaphors are good. Yeah. What are the different pillars that you were talking earlier about, some of the primary pillars and the importance of supporting all of those for an optimal life and optimal performance? Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. I classify everything as like we've got 4 different aspects to ourselves that we need to nurture and pay attention to. So, and it's whether it's creative health or, physical health, it's all integrated. So putting out that creative energy into the world, no matter how that manifests, whether you're an artist or a writer or just an entrepreneur or doing something creative through your work, it's all creative energy. But in order to be able to be happy and fulfilled, you have to have physical health. That's, the foundation, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You have to have mental and emotional health. So feeling like, like I'm not stressed out, I'm sleeping well, your thoughts are in alignment. So you're not getting all pulled, like it's like, oh, that person did this to me, and like losing all that energy through that because your thought process is, out of whack. And financial health, huge, very important. We need to have our financial health in order, which means that those other things can help along the way. And spiritual health, that's being in alignment with your path and purpose. So when you're taking care of all 4 of those, you have a really solid foundation, and then you can put forth that creative energy into the world effortlessly. It feels effortless. You never feel like you're doing anything like hard.
Yeah. How would somebody kind of overcome that conversation, especially for a creative career, that if they're getting a lot of pressure with their family and stuff about the money side? I was just hearing like there's tends to be a lot of pressure about that. So like, how did you deal with that? What are some practices you would recommend for somebody that's kind of facing the same thing to be able to feel like they can support themselves while they pursue their passion, or why they make that kind of that leap?
Well, I mean, okay, first of all, if you have a really high stress job, then putting up some, or putting down some, rules or whatever, like whatever you're willing to do for your job. It's like, I know that I need to go home and not have to reply to email for my job, because that I should, be able to not do that. So having that conversation with your boss, for example, it's like, I need to have my downtime, my recharge time. If you're an entrepreneur and you're doing what you're passionate about, it's like, I still have my 10 o'clock shutoff time, but I feel fulfilled by doing that because I'm working for myself. But if I'm on somebody else's payroll, it's like, no, I don't want to, I'm not giving up my entire life for a paycheck, because that's all you're giving me, is you're giving me dollars for hours. And it's not enough. That's not enough of a way to live your life unless you are passionate about your job and you love doing that and you love supporting whatever it is that your company is doing, and that's your passion and purpose. But for so many people, it's just about the paycheck, and then they allow themselves to get more and more, here, now I need this, and now I need this from you, and I need this. And it's like, okay, well, when you negotiate at the beginning of your job, say, this is what I'm willing to do, and this is, how much money I want to get paid for that. When people don't value themselves enough and value what their worth is for a job, they will tend to, undersell themselves, or not undersell themselves, but sell their worth for lower than what the value is.
Yeah, I really was hearing too, like boundaries, like there's really not any boundaries that they set, because they're not, so it's just, people keep pouring more and more stuff on you, and they'll keep pouring in as much as you let them, right?
Exactly.
So then they just keep accepting it, and the whole thing kind of...
So I mean, it's the old adage: nobody can ever take advantage of you. It's impossible unless you give them permission. So if you don't permit people to take advantage of you, then you can't be taken advantage of. So it's always like, own it. It's like, if somebody took advantage of me, it's like, that's because I let them. So understanding that, putting boundaries or whatever it is that you need to give yourself that recharge time if you are working for somebody else. And like I said, even for myself, I will just keep going. I have to set my own boundaries so I know that I need to unplug and do things. It's the same thing. I'm borderline introvert extrovert. So I know that if I have a big event where I'm going to be having to engage with a lot of people and a lot of dialoguing and that sort of thing, like I know that the day before I have to be in complete hermit mode, and my cat is fine, but no like human interaction, very limited.
Cat.
Yeah, my cat is like recharging for me, but she doesn't deplete my energy. But other than that, because I've had people, well, we can just hang out and watch a movie. It's like, no, it's energy. I just need to conserve my energy. It's like I need to keep that because I know it's going to be a big extrovert, outlay. Even though I'm in flow, it's still, that's a lot. There's a lot of stimulation coming in, and I'm empathic as well, so I'm very sensitive to energy. So I have to make sure I keep my own batteries charged up. And by being in flow, obviously, and by, having my hard shut off time, so I know that these things, if I work until midnight, I regret it the next day because I do feel depleted, even though I was enjoying what I was doing until midnight. But the next day, it's like I didn't have enough downtime. I need to have that unplugged time. So knowing what your needs are as far as like that recharge time is very important, and then insisting that you get it. And if that means that you live with a family and your children and you need some time to yourself, you have your space, or it's like, look, I'm going to go, I need to go to a coffee shop and unwind, or I need to have my room here that I can do doodling or drawing or whatever it is that makes you feel nourished and fulfilled. Because it's that old adage also about, you're on an airplane, plane is going to crash, you have to put your oxygen mask on first before you can help other people. And I learned this the hard way, because I used to, put all my energy out and help all these people, and like I was getting depleted myself, and I wasn't doing what I needed to do to recharge my own energy body, because it just kept going out and out and out, and then I'm not in flow anymore because I'm feeling depleted and I'm putting more energy out there, and I wasn't doing what I needed to do to have my downtime. So I learned that the hard way. And now I'm like very protective. So, I might get invited to do a bunch of things, and I'm like, no, I'm feeling like I need to just stay home tonight, but thank you. And, I'm very aware of when I need to kind of take that time for nurturing and nourishing myself, and when I can expend more energy by, going out into busy environments. Just because being an introvert means that you recharge with alone time. Right. Other people recharge by being around a lot of people. I mean, if you're a true extrovert, and knowing that as well. It's like if you're alone all the time and you're feeling depleted because you're not getting your extrovert recharge, then go out and make yourself go to events. It's like, I don't know anybody there, whatever the excuses are. Yeah. It's like, guess what? There are all these meetup groups. There are all kinds of ways to go out and be sociable with people. There are no excuses anymore, because we have, again, this amazing thing called the internet where you can connect with people. But face-to-face connection is really important. Not just, okay, I'm going to be on Facebook and post, this facade of myself that I want the world to see, and as opposed to real interaction with people, because there is that energy exchange.
Yeah,
at the
end of the day, we're social creatures, right? And that's like that. We need that.
Exactly. Yes.
What are a couple of practices that you would recommend somebody could do, to align with their flow state and their intuition? What are some things that have been like mainstays for you that you could recommend that maybe somebody else could implement right away?
Getting sunshine, for one thing.
Oh, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Sunshine.
How many minutes? What's the science behind that? Like, what is it about sunshine that really?
Well, we evolved to live and thrive under sunshine, and so many people now have bought into the hype and the mythology that the fact that sunshine causes cancer, where in fact it has been proven that sunshine prevents pretty much every type of cancer. The more sunshine you get, the less probability there is for you to die of any cause. So increased sunshine exposure, reduced all-cause mortality. Big study that was done in Sweden for like 25 years on that, on 10,000 women. So It doesn't mean get a sunburn though. So you have to understand your skin, and our skin is different depending on where our ancestors evolved. So if your grandparents or great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents were from Sweden, for example, you're going to have very fair skin and fair hair and fair eyes and all of that. You evolved, your DNA, your skin evolved to be in a place where there is not a lot of sunshine. There is sun during the summer, but you have to have very fair skin to be able to suck in as much of that sunshine as you can get for the limited amount that it's available, and then build up things like, we know about the vitamin D, which is a very important hormone in the body that we get from UVB. And the further north you are, the less UVB there is available throughout the year, because, the sun is not high enough in the sky for enough of the time to be able to get as much, UVB exposure, for example, if you're in Texas or near the equator. So our skin is, the determinant of how much sunshine you can take in a certain amount of time. So there's no formula like 15 minutes a day. It 100% depends on what type of skin you have and how much sun exposure you've already had, because we have this thing called melanin that our body will get a tan. But again, if your ancestors are from somewhere north in Sweden, you really didn't need to have that much melanin in your skin, because you did not ever get to the point, or there was very hard to get to the point where you were going to burn your skin. So it's like, I just have to get as much of the sun as possible, as opposed to being somewhere, further south where your skin it becomes a protector for you. So darker skin is designed because now there's a huge abundance of sunshine. Now I have to go the other direction and make sure I'm protected. So people that have dark skin have to get exponentially more sunshine to get the minimum daily requirement to be able to produce the vitamin D. And there are a whole host of other benefits. That's just one that's commonly known. So the fairer your skin is, it doesn't mean that you don't need any sunshine. You still have your minimum daily requirement. It just may be for you at the very first time, depending on where on the planet it is that you're going out under sunshine. If you're going out in the sun in Texas in the middle of summer,
good luck.
You may only need 5 minutes, and then you're done for today. And then tomorrow it might be 6 minutes or 7 minutes, and then you can increase from there. But you always have to look and see how this is your barometer or thermometer or whatever.
Here.
Well, no, I would just mean your skin in general. Anywhere, so you press on it, and as soon as you see that it's starting to turn a slight pink, okay, you're done for today. Now cover up, go in the shade, make sure that you're not getting burned, put on a non-toxic sunscreen, not any of the toxic ones, which are probably 80% of them out there are highly toxic, become carcinogenic when they're exposed to sun, ironically.
So it's not the sun that gives us cancer, it's the
sunscreen. Well, the sunscreen also, because when you don't get any sun on your skin, your probability of getting cancer goes up directly proportional to that. So because vitamin D, hormone D, is very important for preventing and healing cancer. Melatonin, getting sunlight during the day so that your circadian rhythm is set. Melatonin production is high at night the way it's supposed to be. Melatonin is not only a hormone that helps you sleep, it's a very important antioxidant in the body. So you need to make sure that you have good melatonin levels. So if you're under artificial light all day long and all night long, and your body's like, wait a minute, it's daytime all the time. I don't know when I'm supposed to get sleepy, because we have these photoreceptors in our eyes that are not the rods and the cones. I just simplified, call it blue light photoreceptors. They're attuned to a band of wavelengths in the blue to blue-green that corresponds to the color of sunlight that's predominant when it's the middle of the day, because you're seeing the blue sky. And sunlight always has all of the colors in it: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. The only time that we ever see all of those individual colors is when there's a rainbow in the sky after it rains. And then those colors that are always in sunlight get split up, just like, Newton's prism or the dark side of the moon, prism, where you see the white light come in and all those colors get split up. All those colors are always in sunlight. All of those colors have different healing properties to them. So we need all of those colors for optimal physical health, as well as emotional and mental health. So everybody knows now about the UV. They hear about the UV and the health effects of UV. It's also the UV that burns your skin if you get too much of it. So you need UV, and you also need the colors, and you need the near infrared and the mid infrared and the far infrared. All of that comes from sunlight all of those wavelengths that come to the Earth are nourishing for us, because again, we evolved to live and thrive under sunlight. We did not evolve, when there was an asteroid that hit the planet and had this dark cloud that, everything on the planet died.
Yeah.
That's not when we evolved.
Right.
We evolved when the sun was, anyway, so it's important. It's as important a nutrient as the food that you eat, the water that you drink, and the air that you breathe.
Wow.
So I got off on a tangent there,
No,
which
but
does happen.
No, it's really important to emphasize, in my book, in my playbook, talk about how important it is for people to allocate a certain amount of time to just get outside and do that. I think it's really, really important.
Yeah, and it's also been proven. I mean, I can give you a whole list of research studies about sunshine and the importance of healing sunshine and all the research that I've done. But another thing, for example, that is depression and anxiety is huge. It's really endemic, and there's so many people taking antidepressants. It's been proven multiple times that getting out under sunshine is more effective for depression and anxiety than any antidepressant on the market. Wow. So, and I've experienced this myself when I've been, years ago when I, was starting to teach about all of this, and then I'm like working late hours, and I've got to get this PowerPoint done, and I've got to, I've got this presentation that's coming up, and I'm working and not getting outdoors, and I'm indoors, and I'm getting like stressed and anxious and like feeling depressed and like, just that low energy.
Yeah.
Even though I'm loving what I'm doing, but I'm doing it too much. I'm not giving myself the recharge time, and I was not getting out and getting sunshine. And I'm like, one day I'm like, I am not practicing what I'm preaching. So I stopped what I was doing. I'm like, okay, get up from the computer, went for like a 20-minute walk. I mean, within the first 5 minutes, under sunshine, I went from feeling to like, I love everybody. The world is wonderful. It was like, and I was really aware of it too. Yeah. And I've done it other times since then, because I can start to tell if I start getting that underlying bzzz, like, oh, I need sunshine. So now where I live, I have 2 outdoor offices and 2 indoor offices. But during the summer, like I work outside all summer long. And I have a swimming pool, so I'll go and like take a break, and I'll go for a swim, and I'm under full sunshine and all my skin. I wear sunscreen just on my face. I don't ever wear it on my body. And get that full, absorption of sun, and don't burn. I don't burn. It's important to not burn, because then you're damaging the tissue. Right. But, it's kind of like, I use the analogy where people are like, oh, I have to avoid sun because it causes cancer. I'm going to get a sunburn. Oh, and the other thing, you are more likely to get melanoma from working indoors than being an outdoor worker. Outdoor workers have lower incidence of melanoma than indoor workers, which is ironic, because it's not, you're more likely to get melanoma from lack of sunlight.
Interesting. Huh.
So, I was going to say that, the logic behind, I need to avoid something because I could get a sunburn, that we know is nourishing for us, but it's kind of like the analogy I've used where it's like every single person, probably, at least in this country, has something in their home that has killed millions of people. Do you know what it is?
Nope.
Think about it. You're probably not going to. You're not going to get it.
Let's
anyway,
see. The bathtub. People slipping, falling in the bathtub.
Well, yeah, that's one thing. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good analogy. So, are you going to get rid of your bathtub? No. What I was going to say is that, because of the closer analogy, it's like your stove. Stoves have killed millions of people. You can burn yourself on them. You can catch your house on fire with them. So does it mean that we get rid of the stove and go back to, cooking on a fire pit outside? No. You modify technology. You make it so it's safer. You work with it, and you make it better, so that it doesn't harm you or have as high a potential for harming you. But you don't
forget to turn it off, TV.
Yeah, exactly. But now there are like so many things. It's like, well, except for the gas thing. But now we have the gas alert. You have to have your gas thing. If you have a gas stove, you've got your little like your fire alarm, whatever. What are those called? Fire
detectors.
Thank you.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Smoke detector.
Smoke detector.
Yeah, that's not the right word.
If it's fire, it's kind of a little too far.
Okay.
But smoke.
Right.
Let's get the smoke first.
Detector, your gas detector. So we advance technology so that things are safer for us to use. because of the fact that your cell phone causes brain tumors, which we've known, does that mean everybody gets rid of your cell phone? No. You put it on speakerphone, or you turn it on airplane mode. You make sure you don't have it anywhere close to your bed when you're sleeping. But it doesn't mean you stop using it, because we're not willing to give up those things. But understanding things that are harmful or potentially harmful and modifying either the technology or modifying your habits or behavior around it that's how we work around it. That's how we work, like we, are in modern society. So we need to be able to engage with these things. In a perfect world, you'd be able to live, without any electricity on, a piece of land where there's no Wi-Fi or anything like that, and you've got all the energies of nature that are keeping you charged up. Right. That's another thing, going out into nature, getting sunlight. But getting sunlight, being in the middle of the city, is one thing, but getting sunlight when you're out in nature, then you're getting all of those other healing energies as well, that you don't get when you're, you do get a lot from sunlight, from just the colors and the wavelengths in sunlight, but being around trees and water, that's even more nourishing. And people feel this. I mean, everybody knows, you go by the ocean, if you have big water that you can be by, that's very healing and nourishing. So
I love the ocean. That's like a healing for me. It's like so relaxing and enjoyable.
Yeah, because your body, it's like, and that's the same thing. People know, it's like, I love being out under sunshine. But I can't because it's going to give me cancer. So when you put on the sunscreen, not doing a service to yourself by doing that, blocking those wavelengths.
Really, such amazing and good insights, Leanne. Anything else you want to say in closing, just to kind of, somebody out there that's looking at maybe getting into a creative career, things that they can do to kind of get into flow?
One thing that's obviously really important is good sleep. Sleeping is such a huge part, because that's when the body goes into its healing time. At every night, or is supposed to go into its healing time. But things like getting too much white light, which has blue light in it, which tells your body it's the middle of the day, shut off melatonin production. That blocks, you're not going to be producing enough melatonin. You're not going to get into deep sleep. You're going to be waking up all the time. You wake up in the morning and you're sluggish and you're lethargic, and you have to have your first cup of coffee and then your second cup of coffee, and then trying to subsist on that, and then just constantly feeling more and more depleted. If you're not getting good sleep, that's a really important foundation also for being able to get into flow state. Because if you're exhausted, it's that same thing, that foundation thing. You're not taking care of those basic needs, so you can't go into those higher energies, those, more visionary states. You can't get there because your physical and your energy body is so depleted. So getting good sleep, that's one of the things that, I teach about, also the importance of good sleep. And one of the things that we found as a happy side benefit of my light therapy device is that people are using them for healing all kinds of things in their physical body and the psyche as well. It's like a combination of red and near infrared light, but they also induce sleep when you use them at night. And we discovered this accidentally because people started using them, and I discovered it. I'm like, oh my God, I sleep so well. I use this thing and I put it on my body at night, and your melatonin levels go, you get very high melatonin boost, and then you sleep really well. Wake up in the morning wide awake and refreshed, like needing less sleep than you usually do. So that's one of the things, making sure you're eliminating blue light at night, which is any white light has blue light in it. Okay. So doing things to
and where would they go to get this?
My light thing. I have two websites, catalyticcolor.com and leannevenier.com, Leanne, V as in Victor, ENIER.com, which has all of my artwork and the healing effects of color and art. And then Catalytic Color, CATALYTICCOLOR.com, which is all the science of color and light. So people can watch all kinds of videos that I've done, my talks that are also on YouTube, and they're all on my website, and articles that I've written about all of this stuff. They want to know more about the science of color and light. There's also information about flow state, steps for getting into flow. That's all on catalyticcolor.com. So they can go there. They can spend hours and hours and hours on that website. Because I created those two websites, it was for free information sharing. All of the teaching that I've done for years, I mean, I only launched my lights last year, and it was out of necessity because so many people were creating these products, light therapy products, that were not only not very effective, people were throwing away thousands of dollars on them and they weren't doing very much, and then some of them were potentially harmful to people. So I finally, again, it was like after people pestered me for enough years, Leanne, create your own light therapy product. I'm like, I don't want to manufacture and sell a product. I'm not a salesperson. I just want to help people. But it was the universe that kind of said, nope, that's what you need to do now. So anyway, my websites were created just to share all of this information freely, you know, and all of my teachings were funded by my artwork sales. So I was able to do this and be like, which is what I'm really passionate about, sharing and teaching and helping people. And it was all funded by my artwork. So it was this flow, you know, and people are like, wait a minute, usually people have to do another job so they can paint. And you were doing paintings so you could do another job. Yeah. Anyway, so
That's
it's all your
brilliant,
mindset.
Yeah. Just how when you start getting into the flow and start going with that the universe will support you.
Yes, like magic. It's like riding the wave, being in flow.
Leanne, thank you so much for generously sharing your time today. And
thank you, Jim.
You guys go to her website, check it out. She's really an amazing, amazing woman. What you're creating, what you're causing in the world, your commitment to health and vitality in the world, and just all the things that you're doing. So thank you for what you're doing, what you're up to, and for spending the time with us today. You guys, give yourself permission to play today, all right? Go out and make the whole world your playground. Thanks for watching.